All right, it is a very busy Thursday morning. Glad you're with us. I'm Adam Longo.
And I'm Adriana Hopkins. If you're just now joining us, we are following breaking news out of D.C. A young Jewish couple who worked at the Israeli embassy were shot and killed outside of an event in Northwest last night.
Yeah, that shooting happened around 9:15 outside of the Capitol Jewish Museum. That's near 3rd and F Street, right across the street from the FBI Washington field office. Well, right now, police have the suspected shooter in custody in what's being called an anti-Semitic attack.
7 News is on your side. We have team coverage of this breaking news story with our John Rogers, John Gonzalez, and Joy Wang. We start with Joy now, live near where the shots were fired. And Joy, you're learning more about the suspect this morning.
MPD identifying the suspect as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez from Chicago, Illinois. And Chief Pamela Smith says that there were no prior interactions with him. In fact, when they conducted a background check, they didn't see anything that would have put him on their radar. As for the district, they also said that they didn't have any intelligence given to them before this incident had happened that mentioned any sort of threat when it came to terrorism or hate crimes. But here's what we know, though. A man in custody seen inside of the museum and also heard shouting support for Palestinians. We've got video of that. Take a listen.
Free, free Palestine!
Now, investigators say before the shooting, the suspect was seen pacing back and forth outside of the museum, approached a group of 4 people, then shot at them, hitting a young couple who worked at the Israeli embassy. He later entered the museum and was detained by event security. The American Jewish Committee was hosting an event at the museum celebrating Jewish heritage at the time of the shooting. Police believe both victims were leaving the event when the shooting happened. MPD right now, they're in charge of the homicide investigation. The FBI will look at potential terrorism, bias, or hate crimes. Here's our MPD Chief Pamela Smith describes how the suspect was taken into custody.
After the shooting, the suspect then entered the museum and was detained by event security. Once in handcuffs, the suspect identified where he discarded the weapon, and that weapon has been recovered, and he implied that he committed the offense.
Since last night, MPD has been in contact speaking with schools, synagogues, organizations, making sure that they feel supported. Meanwhile, Mayor Muriel Bowser, she had mentioned 2 grants in place to help with increasing security. In fact, just last week, this museum received a $500,000 grant to help with security concerns. Live right near the Capitol Jewish Museum, Joy Wang, 7 News.
Joy, thank you. This morning, we are learning more about the victims. The young couple was supposed to get engaged in Jerusalem next week.
Yeah, reporter John Gonzalez continuing our coverage. John, this attack is shaken both the Israeli and American Jewish communities, and we're already hearing from folks there at the Israeli embassy.
That's right, Adam. In a written statement this morning, the Israeli embassy here in Upper Northwest D.C. saying that the entire staff is heartbroken and devastated by the murders. Quote, no words can express the depth of our grief and horror at this devastating loss, unquote. The couple, who were also staffers here at the embassy, walked out of that museum hand in hand, leaving behind an evening dedicated to peace and humanitarian values. But within moments, Yaron Lachinsky and Sarah Milgram were gone, gunned down. Ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon, describes this as a horrible attack, not just on Jews, he says, or Israelis, but on the values of freedom and safety in the United States. Yaron and Sarah were reportedly preparing to announce their engagement next week in Jerusalem. This wasn't a random act. Officials say it's the latest, most violent expression of a rising anti-Semitic rhetoric spreading through campuses and protests throughout the country. Israeli leaders, including President Isaac Herzog, condemned the killings. U.S. officials have also expressed outrage, promising justice.
So we cannot go into details at this stage, but you know, when you have an event of a Jewish event in a Jewish museum, you know, there's no coincidence there. Somebody came with intentions. Unfortunately, it was successful, you know, wounding people, killing people.
No coincidence, the ambassador says. As the investigation continues, security, we are told, is being tightened at Jewish institutions nationwide this morning. As for two families, one in Israel, one in the U.S., there is only heartbreak at this hour when just hours ago there was so much hope for this couple and the Jewish community. Reporting live outside of the Israeli embassy, John Gonzalez, 7 News.
This morning at the Alert Desk, I'm looking at hate crime statistics on the local and national level. The FBI's most recent figures come from 2023. Look at this chart. I'm going to help you get through this. There are 14,000, nearly 14,000 people were victims of hate crimes that year. And this chart shows the bias categories. Just over 52% of these hate crimes were based on race, 22.5% religion, and 18.4% of hate crimes reported here were on sexual orientation. Looking at this chart here, I want you to focus on this lower figure over here. So over the past few years, we've seen a large spike back in the summer of 2020 for hate crimes, but slowly over the past couple of years, we've seen hate crimes start to trend upward. DC police, they also keep some stats as well on hate crimes. There's a lot of numbers, but I'm going to simplify this for you. They say it's difficult to establish a motive for crime, but so far, as of April 30th of this year, the department has logged, I see here, 9 hate crimes based on race, and then we see here 1 for religion. Total so far as of this year is 41, but we've been seeing a trend upward. Going back to other figures, we had 92 back in 2011, 146 in 2024. So the numbers have been ticking up.
John, thank you for the breakdown. Of course, be sure to stay with 7 News as we continue to follow this breaking news throughout the morning. Joy Wang and John Gonzalez will be back at 6 with another live report. Until then, we have the latest up right now on our homepage.
All right.